Okay, so I'm going to attempt to do this again. This is a video on stomper motor repair. So typically, like if you have a motor that the contacts are all green, take and drop it in some CLR, and you can see this CLR just eating that battery acid off of those contacts. That's what it will look like. So then just wait for it to stop bubbling. Then what I like to do is when I take a motor apart, let me find a good one that hasn't been in any CLR. So typically I'll get a motor. This is just one out of my thing, so the case is thrashed, but this is for visual purposes only. So I use a dull, roached out X-Acto knife blade. Then I take and pry open this one. Before I start, I take in this metal tab right here. This grounding tab grounds the contacts in the cap to the case. If that's not there, you're going to have to figure something out to ground to make the contacts work. I had one here where I just took and had to put a bunch of solder from the contact here to ground the case to the contact. So I'll take my X-Acto knife, I'll mark on the case, I'll put a mark on the case. Kind of hard to do with the phone in my hand, but you can see, come on. You can see the mark I made. Come on. So I had to refocus the camera. So you see the mark I made right there. That tells you that that goes there. So when you pull the cap off, if that ground strap is in this position over here, the motor will run backwards. So when you put your battery in like it's supposed to in the chassis, it'll go reverse instead of forward. So I'll get you a dull X-Acto knife. Then, oh wait, then I get 2 pairs of channel lock pliers. Then I will grab the gear and attempt to get this gear off, because you don't need to take this gear off at all, not unless the case is really bad and you want to clean the inside of it. So then you do the old twisty back, or you hold one end and then you twist the other end to get the end with the plastic cap off. If it comes off, oh well. The only successful way that I have been able to do it is get a pair of vice grips and put on the end of the shaft and hold the shaft. Little baby needle nose pliers don't work. Don't use these because the shaft will still spin. You need the bigger jaws to hold the shaft. So once you get the shaft off, once you get that piece off, you'll have the case like that. Hopefully it still has the other gear on it. Then I take and get my little wire brush for my Dremel. Variable speed is the way to go, because I turn this sucker on the lowest speed it'll go, just to clean, just to go around the contacts, go around this piece right here. That's what the contacts ride on. I'm sorry, I wasn't well prepared for this video. Ooh, there's a better one. That's what these little guys ride on, the armature. Those things make contact with the brass there. So then you take your wire brush on the end of your Dremel, and you can put it on its side like this, so that you're holding the motor like that, and then you can take and manipulate this on the side as it's turning, and then spin the shaft. Then once you get all that in, you can get it all put back together. Then when you go to put the gear on this end, get yourself a big pair of channel locks. That way, whenever you grab it, you grab on either it's kind of hard to do this one-handed. You grab on the end and squeeze it shaft to shaft, or you squeeze case to shaft. Fucking damn thing. Case to shaft. If you happen to get this, if this gear happens to come off, do not use these pliers at all and squeeze this brass gear on this end on this plastic cap. Plastic cap will break and you'll be screwed. Especially if you only got one motor that works. You ain't got nothing now, because that cap is broke. So then squeeze the gear on after you've cleaned it. Put this, what the hell is that one motor? Then you take and reline the tabs back up. So that tab would be that would be so this is where your positive wire goes, that tab there. Then the other side is the grounding strap. So you put the grounding strap on the opposite side, and then if you forget, 9 times out of 10 you can take and look for the solder mark on the side of the case. That some might have it, some might not. If you got a Rough Rider motor, it might be a little different the way it's soldered. So you might be able to get lucky. Then after you've cleaned those contacts, and say you got a motor that's bad, I mean that's froze. This one that I just dropped in still turned, but if you get a motor that's froze and you drop it in some CLR, look at this right here. See how is starting to separate, that armature is toast. You might as well shit can this, because it is no good. Because if you try to run this, it's going to end up coming apart and taking out your contacts in your plastic cap, and you'll be screwed. So you've got that put together. Then I like to use this stuff right here. I will take and squirt it in the side of the motor this way where the contacts are. And then I have one of two boxes. I have a 4 AA battery box that I use to jump start the motors whenever I'm all said and done. Or I have a 2 AA jump box. I have to use this one with a special, not a special, I have to use this one with a different light bulb, because the $10 one, the ones that you get 50 for $10 off of eBay, they'll hold up to a 4 AA's. But I found this company here, All Electronics. That's the part number LP41. These will, if you're testing a motor, you can do, with this jump pack, you can use it. But if you're putting a light bulb, one of those light bulbs in a semi, it will blow it. And I know that because I just got finished fixing a customer's semi. So I had to go back and put the ones out of eBay, $10 for 50 of them. Those will work. Then whenever you're done, get your motor all back together, take your wire brush on the end of your Dremel and clean these. Clean these. Then if you happen to run into the unfortunate circumstance when you're putting this all back together of the contact breaking off, I have one of these little pin soldering irons I got off of Amazon for like 15 bucks with the variable. I use this guy right here with the variable speed or the variable temp. It should be on the lowest temp. I got turned up for some reason. But this is pretty damn awesome because of the small tip that comes on it for 15 or 18 bucks. Then you can take and let me get my flashlight out. If you can see down in there, I actually had to melt part of the plastic away to get to the brass nubbin. Then what you do is with that soldering iron, you can drop some solder in there. I don't have an example. I thought I had one, but I must have used the motor. So we're just gonna fake it. Take and drop your solder in there, and then solder your wire in like that, and then run your wire. So you can do that. Then once you do that, you're all good. So then once you got that wire soldered in, you take and run it over to, just happen to have this one out. This isn't the right contact, but this is one. You run the wire over to the negative terminal. And if you happen to get those light bulbs from Amazon, 10 for 50 bucks, they don't quite fit right in the hole. So I have to take and get my Dremel, this Dremel bit here, Dremel out the headlight hole. Then I take the bulb and you see how it's straight. Then I bend it. That way, whenever it slides into the chassis, this piece here will let the bulb fall farther down in the chassis instead of sitting high up in the chassis where it's not protected and can get broke off. Then once you get the motor in the chassis, depending on what light bulb you got, take and put your motor in. I'm just mocking this up. Take and put your motor in. Here's your jump box. Make sure it's all good before you put the motor cover down, and then have to keep pulling the damn thing off and on, because you've got a problem with this jumper box. You've already figured your problem out. What you do is you take and jump the negative to the negative contact, then the positive to the case. If the motor turns from the motor to the contact is good, that means if you're having issues, it's this contact there to the motor. And 9 times out of 10, well, this is a side clip, so it doesn't have a screw. So you typically pull the screw out, look at your contact, and you can tell if you have to bend this guy over, and then you can also tell if you have to bend it up and down. Typically you have to do that as well. And then if you have a side clip chassis like this guy, I use one of these guys to poke in the holes to pop the battery contact out. So then when I'm done with that, I get my motor cover on, get my battery in. I typically, once it's running, I'll take and grab the wheel and bog the wheel down. And I'll do the same thing on this side, or either or. I'll just go around all four. We'll start up here, 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 just here, 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 or I'll go around all four. That way it gives it a chance to get all four corners, make sure see if it's working or not. And if the wheels stop, I mean, it just stops, that means you've got a crack in this gear. Here's a good one that you can see. They're not all the cracks are visible. Sometimes you got like that guy. So when you're grabbing the wheel and trying to bog it down, and all the wheels stop, that's your issue. Then the other thing is, whenever you're grabbing the wheels and trying to bog it down, sometimes if it gets all chattery and the wheel and these one set of wheels is turning and the other one isn't, typically is because maybe either the wrong gear length is in there. You just want to have like a little bit of slop back and forth. And then the other thing I've ran into is you'll have to take and add a little drop of super glue. You can take and sometimes you can take and look down it and see the gap in it from the groove. So I take this stuff right here. It's RC super glue. This stuff will glue rubber tires to rims, and I've got RC cars that do 40 miles an hour. So if this will glue a rim to a tire, this stuff will work on anything else that you're trying to use it for. Then whenever if you have to replace this gear, take and get a drop of this super glue, put it in there. You already have your axle slid in. That way when you put the gear, slide the axle into the gear, you're not dinking around trying to get it all lined up, because that super glue sets up pretty quick on that plastic. Then we got Tammy's Hobbies out here. That's why it says Tammy's Hobbies, but you can get this stuff at Hobby Lobby, a Hobby Town, A Main Hobbies, Horizon Hobbies. You can get it offline. But this stuff right here, InstaSet Accelerator, this stuff will make your super glue dry damn near instantly. And you can continue to work on your stuff. But if you have to build that hole up, use the thick super glue and the InstaSet. Now, there's also been instances where there has been a hole in the cap somewhere. It's usually right around here somewhere. Now, because this stuff is the extra thick stuff, this stuff here, you can actually dab it in the hole, let it roll down a little bit, and then quickly set it with this. And then just keep building it up and building it up. That way also, too, the contacts don't have a chance to flop back and forth. Now they're steady again where they're supposed to be, all nice and tight. And, back to this stuff here. This stuff here, you do it about 2 or 3 times. This stuff actually, whenever you spray it in that hole of the motor here on the side, it actually cleans the gunk off of the contacts. And after you do it about 2 or 3 times, you can actually hear the motor just pick up in RPMs and take off. I mean, it will be once you clean the motor with this stuff, the contacts and the cap, and clean the brass on the end of that. It takes an awful lot to bog a motor down. I mean, once you clean those two, the motor will run super strong, almost like brand new. I've only had problems not bringing motors back due to the brass there being toast or the contacts being toast. Only 2 times I've never been able to not bring a motor back. Or the other one is the little wires. I don't know if you can see them, but you can see the little wires from whenever they're wound around. There's 3 different spots where the wires are attached, and that's only three ways a motor will not work. This is toast. It's starting to separate. I would not even use it, because you're just asking to take out more parts whenever it does go. Or the contacts in the cap toast and broke, or those wires. Now, you can take and get a little tiny set of tweezers. These actually came in that $15 kit from Amazon. You can take and ever so gently finagle the contacts back into shape. And you can save a motor that way. But I've only had a handful of motors I can't bring back. You see that CLRs, that motor's no longer fizzing. I'm gonna just leave it in there until I'm done with this video, because that way I can not have to concentrate about it. And then if you're feeling pretty brave, I have done it once, and I have to perfect my process. But if you have one of these contacts that are toast, that are just ripped out or partial, so I got this guy that's a partial, or and this guy's only got one, so that's toast. But if you're very delicate, you can transfer the contacts from what even if you have 3 different ones, you got a good cap, one good contact here, one good contact here. You can take three caps in an essence and make one good one. But you got to be really careful. Then with these guys here, this is a first gen, because you can tell by the way the contact is right there. That contact there fits and touches that. If you ever take one of these apart, you have to look at the wires on that cap and bend them back to where they need to go. There's a little tab in there somewhere. I think this might be it right here where my thumbnail is. Take and turn, bring the contact over behind those, get the cap on, and then spring the contacts loose. Something like that, without me actually setting them down and actually trying to remember how it is. That's it. Don't mess with these. If you're going to do anything, just spray this stuff in there and call it good. Because if you take it apart and not know what you're doing, you're going to end up in a world of more hurt than what you thought you were going to be in. I think that's it. As far as like the chattering, like I said, you can take in, sometimes you'll have to, you can either change the gears if it's chattering, when the rear wheels will be going, or the front wheels will be going. You're holding this one and the rear wheels are going, but this one's just staying. It's because there's something wrong with the worm gear here. It's either worm gear is too short, or the case or the motor cover there is either got a groove in it, in that tab there. That tab right there in the middle, that pushes down the worm gears. So sometimes if you have to, you can fudge the back of that by adding a little bit of super glue to the back of that as well, to bring that back to where the worm gear will grab the cover. I've had to do that a couple times before as well. I hope this helps everybody out. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, or however you ask questions on YouTube.